Yeah, so take me down that journey and how you stumbled upon comedy and how you were able to, make a living and different things like that and what you had to do to, push that forward.
Well, it's really interesting that you're using the language left turn and right turn into like almost as if I've been going a different direction. The funny thing about this is I've always been going the same direction. So like I started stand up when I was 23 years old because I experienced a lot of life up until that point. I previously was
For
expelled.
perspective, sorry to interrupt you. For
Yeah.
perspective, may I ask how old you are now?
I'm 36 now.
Okay, okay, so
So, like, yeah,
23
so
to
I've been in the
36.
stand-up
Okay,
game itself for about 13 years, right? And it really what brought me to that place was I actually initially went to school to be a part of the clergy. I went to theology. I wanted to
wow.
be I wanted to be a youth pastor, right? And I had all these questions burning in my head, and I knew there was parts of my personality that I wanted to combine. I was like, I want to bring people together. Yes. I want to do it in a way that's positive. Yes, right? Like I started following these things, but then when I went to Bible college, well, even though I wasn't a comedian yet, the comedian inside me got myself expelled because I thought it'd be funny to go streaking, and they didn't. They didn't think it was as funny as I did, and they're like, "You get out of here!" And I got the boot. And funny enough, I talked my way back in, and that's where I met my first wife. And so like, and we were together for 15 years after that point. So things that was a really unique circumstance off the hop to teach me that like good things happen out of bad things can inform what you're going to do next that can be good. So like I was kind of off in my assertion that religion was going to be the path for me because it was more political than I wanted to buy into.
Right.
And so for me, I found comedy. If you think about it, a stand-up comedian and a pastor are sort of the same thing, right? They're standing there, they're telling things to the people that want to hear things, except the pastor is most likely not dropping a dick joke. The comedian's most likely dropping too many. So you got like it's still not a perfect balance, but you can see how A got me to B. Like you can see
Yep,
the
yep,
and it was a new risk. It was a new way of exposing myself to something I didn't know, and I love the learning environment of it. I will say this with confidence, and I'm not trying to be shady, but I do very much believe the education system I was brought up in failed the way I learned. The way
yep,
I learned, I that education system doesn't exist. It's not there. So was enamored when I first saw jokes. I actually like the first time I ever saw it live was a friend of mine was doing it. He was like, "Yo, I just signed up for this open mic," and he did his like second open mic, and he was horrible. And I was like, "Oh my god, I could do that!" Like, if he can do that, I can. What are you on about, right? And like, but another part of me was like, I was looking at everything. I was like, holy shit! Like the immediacy of the feedback system. Like the crowd will tell you if it's funny or if it's not funny, and the amount of tight ropes you have to walk at one time. It just felt like emotionally intelligent education that I would not have received any other way had I said yes to the risk of doing comedy, right? I'm risking saying the wrong thing, offending people. I could have something recorded that could land me getting fired in the future, right? There was a lot at risk, just the very act of doing comedy. But that was also for me, like it that the comedy club is supposed to be a safe place to be unsafe in, a comfortable place to be uncomfortable in. Like it's sacred ground in that
yep,
regard. And so I was looking for a way to fuel my comedy career. And I was like, oh, people can work remotely now. So I've actually, when that's why I'm saying it wasn't left or right. It was, oh, if I get this job at Shopify, I can take a day job on the road with me. That's cool. All right, because I was working in group homes. I was wiping butts and taking punches, right? Like I
wow.
did that. I did that for 8 years. When we talk about paying dues, your bro is paying his dues. Like I'm literally like, yo, I've wiped an ass. I've done my shit. I know, and and I know what it's like to not only wipe an ass, get punched in the face, but then have to go perform in front of 2,000 people and then bomb because I got punched in the face that day while trying to wipe an ass. And now I know what 2,000 people sound like silent. Suddenly I've grown some hairs on my chest that day, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
because that is the truth of the comedian experience is all comedians navigate this while having a job, while having a day job. Like most of them don't come from a place of privilege, so most of them just find a mic and figure it out and or have their hustles and blah blah blah. I was looking for some stability with a kid, so I was like, I got a kid, I need a day job, one I'll take on the road with me because I'm not saying goodbye to comedy. No matter what obstacles in my way, I'm going to figure out a different way. But what I obviously I couldn't have predicted was a pandemic happening and that I got a pandemic proof job before the pandemic happened. So
Mm-hmm.
I had this weird thing where all of a sudden I watched comedy go away. It disappeared, man. Like it just people are doing Zoom shows and stuff, but it was uncomfortable. I was just experiencing what it's like to do comedy in the metaverse, and that's way more like a real show. Like you could see the audience in front of you. You can actually grab a mic, you know, even though I end up smashing my cup in front of me or whatever, I
Right.
can still do it, right? And so I'm at Shopify. I'm going to not be negative about this, not be negative about that I just lost comedy and things aren't going the way that I want them to. And I'm going to use my experience at Shopify to learn as much as I can. And
Yep.
so, like anytime, like Toby Luque, he's the CEO of Shopify. I think he's absolutely a brilliant person. I think he's a really interesting systems thinker. And I think he's a really important person to pay attention to in terms of how to think about technology. And I listened to everything this guy had to say because he thinks entirely 100% differently than I do.
Yep.
If you put us in the same room, I don't even know if we could hold a conversation with each other. We're that different of human beings, you know? Like,
Something
but
something tells me that you'd be able to find some common ground with anybody, my man.